Hello out there. My name is Lalu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources. And here is my take for the week entitled, Leave EFCC Alone. At a time when corrosive corruption is tearing away the fabric of our society, we can see how 16 state governments and some lawyers are mounting an assault on the existence of the EFCC. Now, thankfully, there are 20 more states and the FCT who have stayed out of this needless legal drama. By not joining, those 20 states and FCT have acted in the best interest of the Nigerian people, and we thank them for that. But there is also a former NBA president who has written to the National Assembly expressing the view that the EFCC is an unlawful organization. Is that so? This is a matter that the highest court in the land have already expressed a firm opinion at least twice. One, in the case of the Attorney General of Ondo State versus the Attorney General of the Federation, 2002, the Supreme Court affirmed that the National Assembly has the powers to legislate on matters relating to corruption under the exclusive legislative list, according to the Constitution. Two, again, 2 years later, in Olafisoye versus the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2004, the powers of the National Assembly to set up EFCC and the ICPC was affirmed by the highest court in the land. Very rightly so. The Supreme Court said corruption is a matter of national concern. God bless them. So it is quite disturbing that we have 16 state governments who can't seem to figure out a more beneficial matter to take to the Supreme Court to help their people. They did not go to the apex court over a directly beneficial matter to their people, such as how states can receive UBEC resources freely so that they can improve the quality of education of the people. They didn't do that. Now, we know that UBEC is the Universal Basic Education Commission, a federal agency that gets 2% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund to help improve education in Nigeria. Many states there are who can't access the UBEC funds because they refuse or they say they can't mobilize the counterpart funding which is required of them to access the money. And that's about 3.5 billion naira average per state statistically. For example, over 45 billion matching grant to state governments for the implementation of UBEC, that is Universal Basic Education, between 2020 and 2023 has not been assessed as I speak by many state governments, including 8 of those who are now trying to kill EFCC in the Supreme Court. Only 16 states are assessing the UBEC fund as at June this year. Now, as any one of those governors in those states who are now trying to kill EFCC, did they go to court to mount some kind of national or serious advocacy on how they might be able to access those funds if they don't have counterpart funding? Shouldn't that be what they are trying to do? Have they been making any noise about such an important issue? But those 16 state governments seem to be more concerned about how their governors will possibly be free of EFCC once they lose their immunity status. Is that the compelling reason for the 15 other governors to join Kogi in this truly anti-people case? In many of the states across the country, students lie on their bellies to study. Some lie on their backs in classrooms. No good buildings. Where you have buildings, they are old, they are dilapidated structures all over this country. Public education is essentially destroyed in many states. And we know that primary and secondary education are on the concurrent list, therefore, responsibilities of state governments. The same is true of health, where you have clinics in the states without drugs and equipment, hospital buildings without doctors. People in the state can't afford a decent health care, but the states are more concerned with killing the EFCC. EFCC is the agency, one of them, at least in this country, that promotes transparency and accountability because they put the fear of God in the hearts of many elected and appointed government officials. And that's a good thing. We have all seen the drama of the absurd that the immediate past governor of Kogi is directing in this country, all because he doesn't want to account for his 8-year stewardship. So, what about the other governors of the other states? Are they also afraid? James Adley Chase said the guilty are afraid. In a swift response to the former NBA governor, a notable lawyer and former chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption Agencies, Mr. Kayode Oladele, said, with due respect, Mr. Agbakoba's position is more of legal sophistry than legal substance. And we must thank God for such a clear-headed response from another lawyer. If we need to do anything to EFCC, we must strengthen its professional capacity to be free of inducement, to be free of corruption, to respect people's fundamental rights, especially the suspects, and to avoid using Gestapo tactics in their operations. This attempt to kill EFCC with this legal case must fail. We should not allow it. Leave EFCC alone. The fight against corruption in Nigeria is an existential war. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we'll be having 2 segments, and the first segment is a discussion on the state of the nation. I have with me 2 eminent and leading Nigerian newspaper columnists. On my far right, we have Mr. Martin Oloja, former managing director and editor-in-chief of The Guardian, who is currently a columnist. Martin, you're welcome back to Inside Sources.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And with him is Mr. Mojeed Dahiru, a leading newspaper columnist and TV analyst, who I'm welcoming for the first time to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much.
Mojeed, it's good to have you.
Thank you, it's an honor.
All right. So let's talk about 2 things. Hopefully you get the time, but let's start with the absence of the president and the vice president. Now, it's not the first time that this will happen, as Mr. Ononuga, the presidential spokesperson, said. It had happened. This is the second time that it's happening under the Tinubu presidency, and I guess it happened once under the Buhari or Shibajo presidency. So let's start with Mojeed. What is now I think that it's not ideal to have this kind of a situation, but what's your initial take about this?
No, it is not ideal at all. And there is no such thing as a working vacation. It's whether you are working or you're on vacation. And so when the president deems it fit and proper to take a week or 2 for vacation, which is allowed, I mean, you cannot all work and not play. The constitutional thing to have been done, the ideal thing to have been done was to hand over to the vice president, in line with the spirit of the Constitution. And it's also not appropriate for the vice president and the president to be out of the country at the same time. It gives a semblance of a government that is not very serious or coordinated, or that the president himself does not even trust his vice president enough to allow him the reins of power for just 2 weeks. So it's not very tidy, it's not ideal, and I think ordinarily we should have outgrown, sort of thing. Whatever happened in the past should be in the past. We should have outgrown this by now. This is 2024, 25 years after democratic rule.
Martin, what's your own initial take before we actually
as my brother has said, the fact that it happened before doesn't make it right. I think that Nigeria is not just any country, it's an important country. And you know that getting the people to trust what is going on is very important in a democracy. And the way we are, it's a very small world. And the way you see the complexity of our diversity. People need to be briefed about what is going on. Just saying casually that the president is going on a working vacation. One can't understand that qualifier, working vacation. And you see how people have been discussing that so you have nowhere to relax or to do your holiday. And you see the people in the United States, they are proud of the Camp David and so many other places where their presidents relax. And at a time, a lot of things are deemed to be wrong. Even with the economy, people are talking about inflation. People are talking of insecurity in so many parts of the country. And the president is on a walking visit. And then before his arrival, the vice president jetted out to Sweden. And, you know, people are very concerned, and people should be told what is really going on. So it's actually not proper. It's not about even the Constitution. The Constitution is there. The letter and spirit of the Constitution can be explained, but perception of the people in this connection matters. Perception that what is going on. A lot of things around, people are expecting this. Look at even the National Assembly, where if this kind of thing happens elsewhere, the National Assembly, which encompasses what we expect in a democracy.
Right.
That's where
you express
the representatives of the people from different senatorial districts, from different constituencies. They are quiet. We can't hear anything from them. They are not assuring people. They are supposed to have asked questions about what is happening, and that is the reason for separation of power. And then if something is wrong with the executive, somebody somewhere should raise a motion of urgent national importance about all these things that people are talking about. Some committee, even some committee chairmen are supposed to raise questions, not to talk of the presiding officers and the National Assembly. So I think what is happening is curious, and we should discuss it and also advise them that they shouldn't be saying that it happened before and so it should happen.
Mr. Ononuga says the president is making phone calls, and in his last statement where he said there's no vacuum, he said he's making phone calls and stuff. Do you consider that, as a cure to what you just said?
No, definitely no. I don't consider it a cure. It's making phone calls, things are going on, but perception of the people that things are not well at this time, and things that we are supposed to see about. Look at what people are talking about. This PMA's price, that this is surprising that it's getting beyond 1,000. And many people are crying, even some highly placed people, even some insiders within the party are saying that things are not right. If he's making phone calls, assuring the people, we should be seeing some of those things like that to say, whatever is wrong, we are with God. We are supposed to know some of those things like that. It is not about, Bayo is doing his job. He's a professional. We know him. He's a very senior professional. We know him. We respect what he's saying. But that does not mean that we should not also deconstruct our perception of what should go on.
Important point. I don't think they've managed this particular episode well, and I hope that they will use this as some positive feedback mechanism from the media and from their friends in the media, to know that it is just right for the presidency to be part of honor at all times, so that trust can be restored between citizens and their leadership.
We, the people, deserve to know, because not necessarily because of the size we are talking about, to lead the most populous black nation on earth is not a joke. And to see the size, the influence of Nigeria in Africa. There are even foreign direct investors. There are people. Look at the diversity we are talking about. We deserve to know what the president is doing, where he is. And the concern that you find here, that you perceive, is also to deconstruct the fact that, the system is not strong enough. If we have a very strong system, you see the president of even the most powerful nation on earth, you can see what is happening. But because the system is running, you have a very strong system. We do not have, our institutions are not strong enough to support certain things. So that is why when the president is absent, people are concerned. When the governor is absent in a state, you see people are concerned. Because people have been talking about our institutions that are not strong enough to withstand certain things, enforcement, you see policy thrust and what have you. Cabinet cannot just meet in the absence of these leaders. Elsewhere, you find things going on with, even we won't even know when the president is abroad. However, elsewhere too, when there is a crisis, even the president is attending an international, even United Nations meeting. You have covered some of those things in New York before. They quickly leave when there is a crisis. So we, the people, have the right. We employed him. As he said, we employed him. We have the right to know what is going on, where he is. And we need to look up to him. This is a time, communication is very, very important. Even the leader needs to be assuring us to say, as he has been doing, we need to hear that, look, things are difficult now. It is for a better tomorrow. We need this we need this operation, we need this surgery for a better tomorrow. We need to be hearing that from time to time, but not, as he said, just phone calls to a few people. Directing those people cannot just replace
his actual presence.
His actual presence is our president in action, using his word.
Exactly. Okay, Joseph, so a last question and then we move on now to Mr. Dairu. So this issue of the 21 days, in the Constitution, which was inserted after the Yar'Adua situation, where it says that, okay, the president is supposed to, if the president is going on vacation, he's supposed to transmit the letter out of that. And then now inserted somewhere and said that, look, he has, if he leaves the country and is not back in 21 days, then the National Assembly will have to declare. Now, do you think that we need to now even further clarify that to take care of the issue of working vacation, so that we can at least say in our constitution that this is exactly how we want it done? Do you think there's a need for that?
Ordinarily, even the provision of 21 days after the Yar'Adua saga should not have happened in the first place, even Yar'Adua had to depart of honor at that time. You see, that's what is called the spirit behind every law. It's simple. As the president of a country, an executive president, if for 1 hour in a day, you are not conscious enough, you're not in the right frame of mind to deliver, to work for the Nigerian people, in line with the oath of office you took upon assumption of office, you're supposed to step down for the next person that can deliver, even for 1 hour. Nobody needs to compel you. We've also seen that, despite inserting the 21 days clause in the Constitution, the former president, at a time, after, complying with this portion of the Constitution, at the time we saw a tendency where the president would travel out of the country. When it's about to be 21 days, he will come in, spend a few days, and go back, just to beat that 21 days clause. Now, they have already put a landmine that will actually explode this clause because it says that he was going on a vacation where he'll be working vacation. So I don't need to tell you that a lot of staff will be lined up to defend the president, even if he stays beyond 21 days, saying that he's working from there. He's working. And so that amount of constitutional amendment can cure this mischief. What we need is an integrity-based leadership that can pay absolute fidelity to the letters, the intendment, and the spirit of the Constitution. Our Constitution is too bulky already. Further amendments in this regard will make it even bulkier and more complicated.
Mr. Dairu, I like what you said, absolute fidelity. I will be satisfied with 70% fidelity, by the way. But let's move along to another issue, and we take it to Mr. Lodja. So the president has given us indication now, certainly maybe like 3 weeks, that there will be a cabinet reshuffle. Now, that itself has led to a lot of activities, people jumping up and down, especially the ministers who think that maybe they are on the line. We have all kinds of things going on. So those who don't normally go to the media, they're now showing up. In one particular instance, and I'm going to say this, a minister actually goes on TV to read a poem, as if that is a proof of what the duty is. My question, Mr. Lodja, is that if you were the president, which ministries will you rank as critical to the delivery of the intended service or services for the Nigerian people? And, how do you assess those ministries currently?
Well, definitely.
Then, of course, come to the same question we go to.
You will. I would like to say that even it's strange for this notification to announce that we intend to tinker with the cabinet. That's the presidential function. Has the responsibility. That is what we employed him to do. That is a responsibility. And saying that they will do, I feel it's not necessary to just even...
To give that information.
To give that information. I want to do it because that's the reason you see some ministers going up and down, and even some granting interviews here and there to newspapers, to radio, and all those things like that, because they panic. And even 1 year and almost 5 months, we have seen that the economy is not doing well. And a lot of people are disturbed about the performance of the economy. We've seen data. We have seen, and then we'll see energy crisis in the mix. You see people are talking about Band A. You say, why Band A? Why this one? Electricity issue. Businesses are crashing because of inability to just make ends meet, to just put the figures together. People in the tourism industry are crying. They are saying, look, how do we do this? You look at the Ministry of Finance is very, very important.
Yeah.
Economic development. And there is a minister, there is a coordinating minister
for the economy.
Of the economy. And you look at the energy sector comprising this power, petroleum resources, you see that something is wrong there. You see a lot of, every day you talk about Dangote, NNPC, retail, this complexity. The president, if I were the president,
right,
I would even indicate intention to relinquish that ministry. I won't add that one to my own responsibility. There should be a clear and definite petroleum resources minister and a power minister who has been asking people to say, look, switch off this, switch off that, or a solution. I think that doesn't show something that people can take like that. Okay. You have a responsibility. This energy mix, these petroleum resources that we should get, for instance now, if anybody asks me, if a foreign journalist just gets in here and asks me, what is the state of the Port Harcourt refinery after 6 promises? 6 promises. Now we are beginning to see something in the media that, it is the AGO section that is supposed to come on, there is sabotage. I have seen some...
Yeah, I've heard that.
I've read some things that they are beginning to do something. We don't have information about what is going on. After even a lawyer, Femi Falana, SAN, has written using the Freedom of Information Act to ask for information about what the previous former President Buhari approved for Port Harcourt refinery. He also approved for the other refineries.
Right.
What is going on? So we need to be able to hold a minister responsible. There's a minister of state.
Yeah.
But Minister of State, you know what it is. Minister of State is Minister of State. It's not more than that. So I believe that people are concerned about the economy and the energy sector. Those 2 portfolios, those 2 ministries are critical. If you can find somebody to handle the economy in a way that people will, it's not that people cannot understand what is going on or people cannot endure or people were complaining too much, but there must be hope of a better tomorrow that Ngugi wa Thiong'o says is the only comfort you can give to a weeping child.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that literary tip at the end, Mr. Majid.
You know, in the presidential system, it is very difficult to assess ministers in their individual capacities because the president essentially delegates duties and functions in line with the Constitution to his appointed ministers. And so it is important to judge these ministers according to the vision of the president. What is the president's vision for energy, for instance? What is the president's vision for economy and finance, for instance? And if there is any aspect of his manifesto that is so clear about, it is in the finance and economic sector as well as the energy sector. For instance, the president has made it known to everybody that he wants to run a deregulated economy. And so, for instance, on the economic side, he has floated the national currency, among many other neoliberal measures.
Right.
So we have to now judge the finance minister, Mr. Wale Edun, on how far and how much he's actually implementing the president's vision, not minding the outcome. For example, in principle, I disagree with whatever it is that they're trying to do by way of flotation of the naira and all other policies they've introduced. But like you rightly asked, who should the president be pleased with? I think the president can be very pleased with Cardoso and his minister for finance because they floated the naira and they are still going along the line of his vision. The president keeps doubling down on why his reforms, even though it is deforming our economy, he keeps doubling down on the fact that it is the best thing for us. So we are going to judge his minister based on how much and how far he's gone in implementing the president's vision, no matter how unpalatable the outcomes have been so far. It's up to the petroleum ministry, deregulation, reward of subsidy, and the regulation of downstream sector particularly. We're going to judge Minister Heineken Lekobiri, who is in charge of oil in the Ministry of Petroleum, and his counterpart in gas, Ekpiripe. We have to judge them on how far, how well are they implementing the president's vision. Again, I do not necessarily agree with some of the reforms being introduced, especially the reward of subsidy. But the two ministers are actually committed to the president's vision of reward of subsidy. And that is why if you look at the minister, particularly the Minister of Oil, his position has been consistent on why subsidies should go, why the government cannot sustain subsidies, and why the regulation in the long run will be better for the economy. It is arguable. These are economic and ideological issues. So the president is determined to see the regulation to the end. We have seen the adverse effect. We've seen the negative fallout of this policy by way of high energy prices that has actually got into a crisis level. But the minister can only be commended for implementing the president's vision by the president. So if you want us to now assess the minister on what we think should be doing differently, it will be to assess the president on his vision and attempt to say, look, Mr. President, can I have a rethink of some of these policies? So it will have to direct it to the president himself to say, can you rethink some of these things? They will now see that these same ministers are not able to so drive, the alternative to what is provided now. But as it stands, I think he should be very pleased with his finance minister, his CBN governor, and his petroleum ministers.
Because they're doing what he wants.
Exactly what he said. Subsidy is gone. And
subsidy is gone.
And today subsidy is gone. Truly.
All right. Thank you so much. Our time is already spent. This conversation will continue on the State of the Nation. I want to thank both of you, Mr. Martin Soloja, former MD and Editor-in-Chief of The Guardian. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mojid Dairu, newspaper columnist and TV analyst. Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you. An honor.